It had been 14 years since Eli Turner last saw the house. 14 years since his father vanished and the whispers had stopped. People told him to stay away, that the old Turner farmhouse was cursed. His therapist said it was trauma, that the human mind made monsters when it was afraid. But Eli had never been sure the monsters were imaginary. The farmhouse stood miles from town, buried behind wild grass and crooked trees. The gate leaned forward, rusted and half-broken, as if warning him not to enter. Yet something in the air, something faint and familiar, pulled him back. Above the roofline hung the attic bell, still fixed in the same window. Its bronze surface darkened with age. It used to ring by itself at night. Now it hung motionless, but Eli could almost hear it ringing in his head. The yard felt smaller than he remembered. The porch steps groaned under his weight, and the smell of the house hit him the moment he reached the door. Dust, damp wood, and the faint sting of metal. The lock was old but still intact. The same key that had been found beside his father's abandoned truck fit perfectly. The hinges shrieked as he turned the handle.
Inside, the air felt thicker, colder. Dust floated in thin streaks of light from the window. His flashlight sliced through the dark and caught familiar things. His mother's portrait, the cracked clock above the fireplace, the sofa that sagged under its own age. Everything sat where it always had, but the house felt inhabited, like someone was hiding just out of sight, holding their breath until he left.
The clock read 11:03 p.m., the exact time police records said his father disappeared. Eli whispered the time without realizing it, the sound dying in the stillness. He had come for answers, to face whatever truth the attic might hold.
A noise drifted from above, soft, dragging. He aimed his flashlight up the staircase. The sound stopped. Then it began again. Slower this time he climbed, step by step, wood moaning beneath him. At the top, the hallway stretched out, warped and stained by years of neglect. He followed the cold to the attic door. The padlock his father had installed after his mother's death was still there, rusted shut. He hesitated, his hands trembled as he broke it open.
The attic air was colder, sharper. Dust swirled in the flashlight's beam. The bell hung from the rafters, its rope frayed and cut short. Beneath it lay faint footprints. Bare, small Eli's throat tightened. The beam shook in his hand.
He remembered his father yelling up here the night he vanished. Stop ringing it. He'd shouted, stop. Then silence. And the bell had chimed one final time before the world went still.
Now standing under that same roof, Eli felt something brush past his arm. He turned fast, light cutting through empty air. Then he saw the bell move slightly, though there was no wind. His heartbeat thudded in his ears, whispers slipped through the quiet. His name, soft, uncertain. One voice became several, blending into each other until they sounded like echoes of his father's.
He stumbled back, hitting a stack of boxes. Paper spilled across the floor. Blueprints of the house covered in his father's handwriting. One phrase repeated across every margin. The bell keeps her quiet.
"Who?" he whispered. The bell answered, swinging once, its ring deep and metallic. The light flickered, went out, darkness swallowed him, fingers icy cold grazed the back of his neck.
"You shouldn't have come back," a woman's voice breathed. The flashlight flared for an instant. He saw her. A woman in white, her eyes black, her mouth stitched shut, and then she was gone.
Eli gasped and dropped the light. It rolled across the floor and stopped against something dark smeared into the boards. Blood fresh, the trail led toward the attic window where the bell swayed gently. Lightning flashed outside, reflecting both his face and another's beside it in the glass. She was behind him. He didn't turn. He couldn't. The voice whispered again, faint but clear. "Tell them." The bell lied.
Thunder cracked. Everything went black.
When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the attic. He was standing downstairs near the fireplace. He couldn't remember walking there. His watch still said 11:03 p.m. The time hadn't moved. Maybe he hadn't either.
A faint ringing echoed through the floorboards. It wasn't coming from above this time. It was coming from below, from the basement.
Eli smiled without meaning to. It was the same strange smile his father had worn in that old photograph on the wall. Only now Eli understood. His father hadn't been smiling for the camera. He'd been smiling because he heard it too.
The bell rang once more. Then came the whisper. Soft, close, and unmistakable.
"Eli."
The sound came again from beneath the floor. Low, deliberate, like someone striking a small metal bowl. It didn't echo the way it should have. The vibration felt trapped inside the walls, crawling through the wooden beams and up into Eli's bones. He stood at the edge of the living room listening. The air had changed. Every breath carried a faint metallic chill, the kind that burned on the inhale. He looked toward the basement door at the far end of the hall. It was closed, but something behind it pulsed with quiet rhythm, as if the house had a heartbeat of its own. He took one step toward it. The floor groaned in response. Another step, the clock on the wall ticked twice, then stopped completely. The silence was absolute. Eli hesitated, hand hovering above the doorknob. Memory slipped in. His father's voice shouting, a crash, the sound of the bell. The police had found blood on the basement stairs all those years ago, but no body. They had blamed wild animals, vandals, anything that would make sense. But Eli remembered the truth of that night. His father had gone down there because something called him. And now it was calling Eli. The handle was cold, slick with moisture. When he turned it, the hinges released a moan. The darkness below smelled of old soil and mildew, but beneath that was something faintly sweet like rotting flowers. He switched on his flashlight, the beam slicing through the gloom. Wooden stairs descended into shadow. He remembered being forbidden from coming down here as a child. His father used to keep the door locked at all times. Once Eli had asked why, and his father had said, because some doors open both ways. Now, that warning sounded more like prophecy. He stepped down, 1 foot at a time. Dust fell from the ceiling with each movement. When he reached the bottom, the light revealed an old workbench cluttered with tools, paint cans, and a dusty reel-to-reel recorder. In the far corner stood a wooden chair facing the wall, rope hung from its arms, frayed and stained dark brown. The bell rang again, soft, distant, but the sound didn't come from above anymore. It came from the recorder. Eli's heart hammered. He approached the table. The tape on the reel glistened faintly as if new. A note was taped to the side in his father's handwriting. "If you hear, don't answer." He pressed play. Static hissed through the speakers and a man's voice filled the room, his father shaky, exhausted. "Day 17, she's quieter now. The bell works, but only if it keeps ringing. If it stops, she gets closer." Eli froze. The sound of the bell faintly chimed in the background of the recording, steady and rhythmic. His father continued.
"I tried to record proof, but she doesn't appear when the tape is rolling. Only the voice remains. Sometimes she whispers through the wires, sometimes through me."
A deep thump sounded in the recording. Then came the unmistakable dragging noise, the same one Eli had heard from the attic earlier that night. His father's voice returned, trembling now.
"If anyone finds this, don't ring it. The bell doesn't keep her away anymore. It brings her back."
The tape cut to silence. Eli stepped back, the edges of his vision darkened, spots of light flickering. The shadows along the wall began to shift, moving even though the flashlight didn't. Something was breathing behind him, slow, wet breath. He turned the light, nothing. The workbench stood as it had, but the chair facing the wall had moved. It now faced him. He stepped backward until his shoulder hit the basement door. He turned the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Locked, he twisted harder, pulling until the metal groaned under his grip. But it held firm. The smell in the air thickened, sweet, decaying, unbearable. From somewhere in the dark came a whisper.
"Why did you play it?"
Eli froze. There was a woman's voice, soft, echoing like she spoke from inside a hollow space. He didn't answer.
"You made it stop," she whispered again.
The reel-to-reel clicked. The tape had reached its end.
"Now it rings for you."
The bell sounded again, louder now, somewhere deep beneath the floor. The vibration shook dust loose from the ceiling. Eli stumbled forward, grabbing the flashlight with trembling hands. He aimed it toward the ground. The boards beneath the workbench shifted slightly, like something beneath them was moving.
He crouched, shining the light closer. A faint crack ran across the floorboards, fresh, jagged, splitting open inch by inch. Cold air poured through. The smell was worse now, thick with rot. The beam of the flashlight revealed something below, stone steps descending into earth.
The basement had another level.
Eli whispered to himself. No, this wasn't here before. He pushed the workbench aside and pried the boards open. The opening gaped like a wound. His hand brushed against metal. An old bell rope, coiled and frayed. It stretched downward into the dark. He hesitated, but curiosity overpowered fear. If his father had gone down there, then maybe his answers were waiting too. He stepped onto the first stone step, the air colder than before. The walls narrowed, slick with moisture. His breath misted in front of him. He descended further, counting each step. 12, 13, 14, until he reached the ground. He stood inside a cavern carved into rock, rough and uneven. The air hummed faintly. In the center of the room hung another bell. larger, older, suspended by iron chains. The rope attached to it was new, clean, as if someone had replaced it recently. He approached slowly. The floor was covered in shallow carvings, circular patterns filled with strange symbols. Some of them glowed faintly as his light passed. The hum grew louder. Almost musical. Eli felt a pull. Not in his ears, but in his chest. The bell wasn't ringing, but somehow it was still singing to him. He reached out and touched it. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the rope jerked on its own and the bell rang. The sound tore through the air like thunder. His flashlight burst and died. The cavern flooded with cold whispers rose from every direction. His name, his father's, his mother's. The floor shuddered. The chains clanked above him and a shape began to form out of the dark behind the bell. A figure, long and thin, arms stretching wider than they should. He stumbled back, his foot catching on a loose stone. The figure moved closer. Its eyes were hollow, its mouth sealed by thin black thread. It tilted its head, the stitches pulling taut.
You brought me back, it said, voice muffled through its own mouth.
Eli tried to run, but the air thickened, heavy as water. His chest burned. He reached the steps and climbed 2 at a time, but each movement felt slower, heavier. The whispering grew louder, rising into frantic noise. When he finally reached the top and pushed the trapdoor open, the house above was completely silent. The air was still. His lungs heaved. He turned to close the door behind him, but there was nothing beneath it anymore, just solid dirt. The hidden stairway had vanished. Eli stood alone in the basement, trembling. The bell above the house began to ring again, slow, steady, echoing through the wood like a pulse. He looked up at the ceiling and whispered to no one, "Dad, what did you do?" The clock upstairs began ticking again. It was 11:03 p.m. The same minute, the same night, and for Eli Turner, the house had just started to breathe. Eli stood in front of the attic door, its wooden surface darkened by time and something else, something that looked too much like dried blood. The smell was stronger now, not dust or decay, but something metallic, old and alive. He pushed the door open and the hinges cried out in protest. The attic stretched wide under the slanted roof. Moonlight cut through the small circular window, casting a single white beam across a sea of old furniture, trunks, and covered mirrors. The air was heavy, dense, almost wet. Eli stepped forward, his boots creaking on the floorboards. There it was again, the bell. A faint, almost trembling sound. It came from behind an old dresser covered in sheets. He reached out, pulled the cloth away, and froze. Behind the dresser was a wooden box, small, carved, and sealed with nails. There was something familiar about it. The carvings were strange, twisting shapes, almost like vines. But if you stared long enough, they looked like faces. Eli crouched down and touched the box.
It was cold. When he pressed his palm against it, the faint ringing of the bell grew louder from inside the box.
He didn't remember bringing anything like this up here as a kid, but deep in his mind a memory stirred, a flash of him, much younger, hiding something in the attic after his mother's funeral. His father yelling, his hand shaking as he hammered nails into a small wooden box.
He blinked, The memory vanished like smoke.
The bell stopped. Eli stared at the box, breathing hard. Then the sound came again. One long, dragging ring that made his ears ache. He couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed a hammer from a pile of tools and pried the lid open. The moment the lid lifted, a gust of cold air shot out like a breath that had been trapped for years. The smell hit him. Rot, old perfume, and something else beneath it, something metallic. Inside the box was a small silver bell, its surface blackened with age, and beneath it, a lock of hair brown tied with a faded red ribbon. Eli stumbled back, his mind screamed no. He knew that ribbon his sister Anna used to wear one just like it. The one she had on the day she disappeared. He remembered his father searching the woods, the police, the neighbors whispering, and how the search stopped after a few days as if everyone had decided to forget, but not Eli. He had always remembered the sound, the bell that rang in the house for weeks after Anna vanished. Eli picked up the bell. The instant his fingers touched the metal, his head filled with whispers, a dozen voices murmuring too softly to understand, echoing like they were trapped inside his skull. He dropped the bell. It rolled across the floor and stopped near the window. The attic door slammed shut behind him. He spun around, hammer still in hand. The door wouldn't budge. He pounded on it until his hands hurt. Then, silence. In that silence, something moved. He turned slowly toward the far end of the attic where a tall mirror stood covered by a white sheet. The fabric was stirring, even though the air was still. Anna. His voice cracked. Is that you? The sheet fell. For a moment, Eli saw only his reflection, but it wasn't quite right. The image was darker, paler, its eyes sunken, mouth twitching into a crooked smile. Then behind his reflection, another shape appeared, a small figure standing just over his shoulder. A girl in a tattered white dress, her hair tied with a red ribbon. Eli froze. The reflection smiled wider, even though he didn't. He turned. Nothing behind him. But when he looked back at the mirror, the girl was closer. Her eyes were pure black, and her small hands were pressed against the inside of the glass. Eli stumbled backward. No, this isn't real. But the glass began to crack, spreading like a spider web. The girl's hands pushed harder, and from inside the mirror came a faint, muffled ringing. The bell again, as if it were ringing from another world. The glass shattered outward. Eli shielded his face as shards rained down, slicing his arms. When he looked up, the mirror was gone. So was the girl. He stood alone in the attic, bleeding and shaking. The bell lay at his feet. It rang once. And then he heard a child's voice whisper in his ear, "You shouldn't have opened it." He turned, swinging the hammer wildly. Nothing. Just a beam of moonlight and dust floating in the air. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the staircase below. Someone was coming up. Eli gripped the hammer tighter. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. The steps creaked one by one, closer and closer. He crouched behind a pile of boxes, watching the stairway. A shadow appeared at the top, tall, hunched with a limp. "Dad?" He whispered before he could stop himself. The shadow paused, then a voice low and rough. "Why did you open the box, Eli?" The sound hit him like a punch, that voice, his father's voice, but slower, deeper, like it was being played backward. Eli stumbled out from behind the box, his hammer raised. "You're not real." The shadow moved forward, revealing a figure that looked almost human, his father, but pale as paper, his eyes hollow. A rope mark circled his neck. Eli backed away. "You're dead." "I told you." The figure rasped. "Some doors stay closed." The bell rang again, this time so loud it shook the walls. Eli screamed and threw the hammer. It passed right through the apparition, slamming into the far wall. The attic went dark. When the light returned, Eli was standing alone again. No shadow, no bell, just the empty attic and the open window. The night air was freezing. He stumbled downstairs, hands trembling. Every creak of the floor sounded like a whisper following him. In the kitchen, he found his father's old journal lying on the counter, something he was sure hadn't been there before. He opened it. Most of the pages were empty, but one was filled with shaky handwriting. "The bell is a warning, not a toy. Once it rings, it never stops." Eli closed the book. Heart racing, he looked toward the stairs. The sound of the bell was faint again, like it was moving deeper into the house. Then came another sound, a child's laugh, and it came from the basement.
Eli knew he should leave. He should run out of that house and never look back. But his feet moved on their own, drawn toward the sound. At the top of the basement stairs, he hesitated. The air smelled of damp earth and iron. The laughter came again, closer this time, mixed with faint singing, a girl's voice humming the same lullaby his mother used to sing. He gripped the railing and started down. Halfway down the steps, the light bulb above flickered and went out. The basement fell into darkness. He took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam shook in his trembling hand. At the bottom of the stairs was the old furnace, rusted and silent. The singing was coming from behind it. He walked around slowly. There was a small wooden door there, one he didn't remember. It was barely big enough for a child. The bell rang again, this time from behind the door. Eli's breathing quickened. His mind screamed to stop, but his hands reached out anyway. He pulled the small door open. Inside was a narrow tunnel. Carved into the earth, the air that came out was cold enough to make his breath visible. And somewhere down that tunnel, a faint red light pulsed in rhythm with the bell. Eli crouched down and crawled inside. The tunnel went deeper than he expected, twisting and narrowing. His phone light flickered and he had to keep one hand on the dirt wall to steady himself. The ringing grew louder. Then his hand touched something soft. He froze. He moved the light toward it and found a child's shoe half buried in the dirt. It was old, cracked, and covered in dried mud, but he recognized it instantly. Anna's. Eli's throat went dry. He kept crawling until the tunnel opened into a small underground room. The walls were lined with old boards, and the red light came from a lantern sitting on a wooden crate. And in the center of the room, a child's skeleton lay curled on the floor. Eli's breath caught. The bones were small, fragile. The skull tilted to one side. Around its neck hung a thin cord, and on it, the silver bell. He sank to his knees. Anna. The lantern flickered, and then the child's head turned toward him. Eli couldn't move. The air was cold, heavy. Each breath burned in his lungs. The skeleton's head was turned toward him, its jaw slightly open, the bell around its neck gleaming faintly in the red light. He wanted to believe it was just a trick of the light, that his exhausted mind was creating horrors out of shadows, but then, slowly, the bones began to shift. A faint sound rose, a whisper soft as the movement of air through a crack. It wasn't words at first, just the sound of breath. Then clearer, a voice that made Eli's heart stop. Eli. He stumbled backward, hitting the dirt wall. No, no, no. The skeleton moved again, curling upward as if invisible strings were pulling it from the floor. The bell around its neck rang once, sharp and piercing. And suddenly, Eli wasn't in the tunnel anymore. He was standing in his childhood living room. Daylight streamed through the window. His mother was humming that same lullaby as she folded laundry. Anna sat cross-legged on the rug, holding the silver bell in her small hand.
Don't ring it too much, Anna.
Their mother said softly, it calls the wrong kind of things. Anna giggled.
But it sounds pretty.
She shook it once, and the air seemed to shimmer. Eli, younger now, watched from the hallway. He remembered this day. The memory hit him so hard it felt like drowning. He'd been there, he'd seen it. That night the first knocking had started in the walls, and 2 weeks later Anna was gone. The memory faded as suddenly as it came. Eli found himself back in the dirt tunnel, the lantern flickering violently now. The skeleton was gone. But he wasn't alone. Something was standing behind him. He turned slowly. In the narrow entrance to the tunnel stood a figure. A little girl, hair tangled and dark, eyes empty. Her dress was white once, but now it was gray and soaked with mud. Anna, he whispered. The girl tilted her head. Why did you leave me here? Eli shook his head.
I didn't know. I tried to find you.
You forgot me. Her voice echoed strangely as if two people were speaking at once, the soft tone of a child layered with something older, colder. He stepped closer.
I never forgot you.
The girl took a step forward. The bell around her neck rang softly and the lantern went out. Total darkness. Eli's phone flickered and died. He was trapped in pitch black, hearing only the sound of his own breath and the faint, rhythmic ringing. Then fingers brushed his face, cold, small, trembling. Stay with me, she whispered. It's lonely down here. Eli staggered back, but the dirt wall stopped him. The air felt thick, almost liquid. Something was pressing against his chest, not physically, but deeper inside him. The bell rang again, louder. The sound filled his head until he thought his skull would crack open. He screamed, and the light came back. But he was no longer in the tunnel. He was standing in the attic again. Everything was exactly as before, the shattered mirror, the open window, the box on the floor. But something was different. The air was warmer. The moonlight was gone. The attic felt smaller and alive. In the corner, the girl stood again. Anna, her face looked less decayed now, more like the sister he remembered, but her eyes were still wrong. Black, empty, endless. Eli took a step forward. What do you want? She smiled faintly, The floor groaned under her as she moved closer. He made me stay here. He said I had to protect the house. Eli's throat tightened. Who did? She looked past him, toward the stairs. Daddy. The word echoed through the attic like a curse. Eli spun around, and there he was again, the figure of his father standing at the top of the stairs, his skin gray, eyes hollow, that same rope mark carved deep into his throat. Eli. The voice rasped. She shouldn't have touched the bell. You both should have listened. Eli's anger broke through his fear. You killed her, didn't you, The figure moved faster than anything dead should. It grabbed Eli by the throat and slammed him against the wall. The touch was icy. Eli gasped, clawing at the hands that weren't fully solid. They flickered like smoke in a shape. His father's face twisted. I didn't kill her. The house did. The bell called it, and I couldn't stop it. Eli choked out, the house. The house listens. His father whispered, it remembers every sound, every sin. The grip tightened, Eli's vision blurred. Then suddenly the ghost let go and staggered backward as if something had pulled it away. Anna was standing there, holding the bell. Her expression was blank, but her hand shook as she raised it. The bell rang once, clear and piercing. The figure of their father screamed, a sound like metal tearing apart, and dissolved into smoke. The attic fell silent again. Anna dropped the bell and turned toward Eli. "It wants you now," she said softly. "What does?" "The one behind the walls." Before Eli could respond, the attic floorboards cracked beneath him. The wood splintered, opening like a mouth. He tried to move, but the floor collapsed and he fell. Darkness swallowed him. He landed hard on something soft, dirt again. He was in a crawl space beneath the house. The air was suffocating, thick with mold and rot. He could hear faint breathing, but it wasn't his own. A voice whispered right beside his ear, "Do you remember burying it?" Eli froze. His mind reeled. A memory half-buried surfaced again. A night long ago, his father dragging something heavy into the yard, telling Eli not to look, the smell, the bell. "No," he murmured, "that can't be." The breathing got louder. Then in front of him, the dirt began to move. Something was pushing its way up from the ground, fingers gray and bloated, clutching at the soil. A face emerged, twisted with empty sockets and a mouth full of earth. Eli scrambled back, clawing at the dirt wall. "Stop! Stop!" The corpse rose, half-rotted but alive, its lips moving soundlessly. The bell hung around its neck, glowing faintly red. Eli screamed, "What are you?" The voice that answered was his own. "I am what you buried." He stumbled backward until he hit a wooden beam. His heart was hammering so fast he could barely breathe. "You're not real." The thing smiled, his own face rotting, smiling. "You buried me when you ran, when you forgot her, when you forgot what you did." Eli's vision swam. "No, I didn't." Anna followed the sound, "But you made it ring." The corpse lunged. Eli swung wildly, his fist connecting with nothing but air. The world dissolved into white light, too bright, too fast. When he opened his eyes, he was back outside. The farmhouse loomed in front of him, quiet and still. Morning sunlight touched the roof, and the birds were singing again. For a long time, he just stood there, not sure if he was awake or trapped in another layer of nightmare. Then he heard it, faint, distant, but unmistakable. The bell. It was coming from inside the house. He took one step towards the porch and stopped. In the window above, a little girl was watching him, her hair tied with a red ribbon, her face smiling faintly. She lifted her hand and waved. Eli turned and ran. He didn't stop until the house was a speck on the horizon. But even then, as he stumbled onto the road and collapsed, he could still hear it. The soft, steady ringing of the bell. Days later, when the police arrived after a local reported strange noises from the farmhouse, they found the door open and a trail of footprints leading to the woods. In the attic, they discovered a small wooden box. Inside it lay a bell, a lock of hair, and a note written in shaky handwriting.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's me.
Eli Turner was never seen again.